The secret to confidence. Mira had always dreamed of exploring the world. She loved the idea of visiting different countries, tasting new foods, and making friends from all over. But there was one problem. She was terrified of speaking English. She had learned English in school, memorizing grammar rules and vocabulary lists, but whenever she had to speak, she froze. What if she made a mistake? What if people laughed at her? Because of this fear, she avoided conversations, nodding politely but never really engaging. Then, one summer, she finally decided to face her fear. She booked a solo trip to London, hoping that being surrounded by English speakers would somehow force her to improve. But even in London, she struggled. She hesitated before ordering food, avoided small talk with strangers, and relied too much on translation apps. She felt like an outsider, trapped in her own silence. One afternoon, while wandering through the streets of London, Mira found a small cafe tucked away in a quiet alley. It looked cozy, so she stepped inside and ordered a cup of tea, carefully rehearsing her sentence in her head before speaking. An elderly man sitting nearby noticed her hesitation. He smiled warmly and said, "You speak English?" Mira hesitated but nodded. A little," she replied nervously. The man chuckled. "Then speak. Even if it's not perfect. Words connect hearts, not just minds." Something about his words stayed with her. That evening, Mira thought about all the times she had been too afraid to speak. She realized that no one was expecting her to be perfect. People just wanted to communicate, to connect. The next day, she decided to challenge herself. She started small, greeting shopkeepers, asking for directions, even joining conversations with fellow travelers. At first, she stumbled over words, mixed up tenses, and made plenty of mistakes. But something amazing happened. No one laughed at her. Instead, people smiled, helped her, and even complimented her efforts. A waiter taught her a new phrase. A bookstore owner shared a funny story. A fellow traveler became a friend over a long conversation. With every conversation, her confidence grew. She laughed at her mistakes instead of feeling embarrassed. She stopped overthinking every sentence. She started enjoying the language, not fearing it. By the end of her trip, Mira was no longer the same shy girl who had arrived in London. She was telling stories, making jokes, and feeling truly connected to the world around her. As she boarded her flight home, she looked out of the window with a smile. She had discovered the secret to speaking English fluently. It wasn't about perfection, but about courage. And from that day on, she never let fear hold her back again.